Attorneys share how they really feel about non-attorney salespeople via our social media. So let's hear what they have to say. We have Chris, an attorney, but the prospective client needs legal advice before they make such a big decision. They need to get a feel for how their lawyer is actually going to operate. We are not selling widgets or rote cookie cutter services. Fair enough, Chris. The next comment that we had from Ken. As an attorney for 49 years, who ran my own practice for 30 years, I think this is a terrible idea. The attorney-client relationship requires building rapport and trust between attorney and client. I would often devote 3 or 4 hours to an intake interview after initial screening by staff, determining whether I wanted to invest my time, effort, skills, and capital in the prospective client's case. Clients are people with real complex problems. True, not widgets on an assembly line. Also true. No non-attorney salesperson can do that. Okay, 2 really excellent points. And for the attorneys watching this video, you probably have a similar type of lean because this has been drilled into you through law school, because this is the process you go through. The idea of having a non-attorney salesperson step in and run consultations is almost bewildering to you, because the goal of the initial consultation, based off of where your current mindset is, to give the prospect the ability to evaluate you evaluate them, make sure it's the type of case you want, make sure you want to take it on and feel confident about the legal matter of the case, and do all of that in the legal consult, while even in many cases dispelling legal advice through that consultation, and then taking the next step with the client. With one change. We're assuming that has to go away when a non-attorney salesperson steps in, and it doesn't. The different way of looking at the sales process with a non-attorney salesperson is moving the line in which that meeting happens. See, many firms combine initial consultation and what we'll call onboarding into one meeting. And that one meeting is the initial consultation. They do a hybrid of both. They're trying to get the client to retain the firm while simultaneously gather all the legal details and nuance and start to build the onboarding for this client. So that way, if they do move forward, they'll start to move into the next steps of the case. What we're suggesting is a non-attorney salesperson, A, cannot give legal advice, and B, should not give legal advice and shouldn't at all be involved in the operations of a case. So the way we look at the sales process is a little bit different. We view that initial consultation, or what many firms are calling a case evaluation with the non-attorney salesperson, as the meeting for the non-attorney salesperson to build rapport, build an emotional connection, establish trust with the prospect, get an idea of what's going on for them, what they're trying to solve, and show them a path forward to how your firm can help solve the problem. Not how, executionally speaking, your firm is going to solve it, but by relating to the emotional side and painting a path forward for that prospect to take the next step. But hear me out for a second. The next step is what's so important to all of you that just had those comments. See, what the next step should be is an onboarding. And the onboarding should happen with the legal team. This becomes the filter for you. So for so long, attorneys were viewing the initial consultation as both the sales conversation and the initial filter. When those two blend, it makes it very difficult for you to generate really strong sales results as a law firm. Now, look, if you're a keep it all, keep it small firm and you're not trying to grow and scale your firm, it may be okay for you to stay in that zone. And this may not be as big of a worry for you. And you're kind of like, well, I'm okay with combining both. That's fine. But if you're a law firm that's trying to scale, combining filtering, adding an attorney into the consult, and trying to qualify right there at time of consult mixes sales and operations together. And that's always a really poor equation for sales results. So your sales numbers, your actual conversion metrics get hindered as a result. So now you're not converting as many prospects that are showing up to consultations into clients of the firm. So that's reason number one. Reason number two is it creates a genuine capacity problem. If the law firm owner or the attorney is still running consultations, it makes it very difficult to scale past that point, because you're now trying to balance both. You're trying to have as many consultations as you can on the calendar to drum up the business that you want to generate to be able to hit the goals you want to achieve. But at the same time, you now have to fulfill all of that legal work. And so now it's this constant feast and famine where you ramp marketing up, you take a bunch of consults, but now you got all this work to fulfill. So now you got to slow down your capacity on consults to fulfill all the legal work. And you're never able to keep just a consistent new client attraction cycle and pipeline in place because you're constantly ebbing and flowing between sales and operations. So having someone step in and run that for you helps remove you from the sales process, and then simultaneously gives you the ability to use onboarding as your filter. Now, what your non-attorney salesperson can do is they can have that sales conversation, that case evaluation, initial consultation with the prospect. It's an emotional sale. Even when you're running consults, it's an emotional sale. Prospects make emotional buying decisions and they justify with logic. The logic happens partially in that onboarding. So your non-attorney salesperson makes the emotional sale, walks through what's their biggest fear right now, what's going on for them, what are they trying to solve, and then connects the dots and introduces them a path forward on how your firm can solve that, moves them into onboarding as the next phase. So now you're probably wondering, okay, what if they get to onboarding and either they don't want to move forward because now they've met with me, the attorney, and for some reason they don't like me or they don't like my process, or you as the attorney decide, oh, this is not a case I want to take. Great. Here's the answer. Make that onboarding guaranteed. Refund them their investment in part ways. And ideally, if for some reason you determine it's not a case that you want to take, if you are going to refund them in part ways, maybe point them in the right direction. Do you have a referral to another firm that will take it? Do you have a resource they can go to be able to help get the problem solved? So that way you don't just leave them high and dry and hanging. And if for some reason they don't want to move forward because it's not the right fit for them, great, let's refund them and move on. Because that likely means anything that comes next in your workflow cycle is going to be an extremely uphill and challenging battle with that now client. The truth of the matter is, when we're running at optimum, and this is an important point, non-attorney salesperson will close somewhere between 60 to 80% of the qualified consults that show up. And then once they get to onboarding, ideally, there should only be about 5% or less of those clients that ever request a refund. Whether you're determining their case is not what you want to take, they determine it's not the right fit for them. And when you put all of that together, what you quickly recognize is, oh, wow, I'm able to help a lot more people scale this firm a lot quicker and have really strong results from a conversion metrics perspective by utilizing this model. So everything you mentioned in your comments are totally understandable and reasonable. And what we're suggesting as proponents of using non-attorney salespeople isn't that we remove what you said. It's that we move the line in which it happens and we use something called onboarding as now the filter rather than the case evaluation or initial consultation as the filter. The initial consultation and case evaluation should be where we maximize the number of prospects that turn into clients. The onboarding should then be the filter to set the right expectations, make sure for the client's sake it's something they're feeling good and confident about, make sure for your sake it's a case you want to take, and then set them up for the right next step in the workflow process. And never mind the fact that on the workflow side of things, it also makes your life a lot easier because now you've got a dedicated onboarding that's going to work through the workflow component and legal logistics of this and properly set the next step up in the process. So hopefully you become more efficient in that. And the client's now bought in, they understand what's needed, they understand what's next. And so now you're able to create this process with more efficiency. And by the way, this also goes for if the non-attorney salesperson gets hit with legal advice in the consultation. Now what they can do is they can defer that legal advice to the onboarding. It's just where it happens are two different functions. So anyway, I think this is how a lot of attorneys feel about this process that aren't necessarily at that point where they're confident and comfortable in the idea of a non-attorney salesperson. I'm hoping this video inspired how and why this now becomes possible because we view it as two separate functions within the same process. If this video did help, let me know. If it drummed up some emotion or frustration or questions, go ahead and let me know in the comments. Happy to answer any of them. But in the meantime, if non-attorney sales is something you're interested in and looking more into, we've got some info on it down below. We actually recruit, place, and train non-attorney salespeople for law firms. So you can learn more about that below.